Hello, Laura back for another constructive response question. And this time it's L5M1 LO2 question. And we're going to focus on an essay question rather than a case for this one. This is one of my favorite questions. So if you get this in your exam, I'll be doing a little dance of joy for you because I think it's a nice question that students go wrong with because they choose the wrong theory. Just as a caveat, for any of these questions in L5M1, there are usually a wide array of different theorists that you can use. So I'm giving you my suggested theorists. That doesn't mean to say that if you use other ones, that would be an incorrect answer. It wouldn't. You can use a variety of different ones. I'm just going to tell you the ones that I think are the most simple and straightforward to be able to get the marks in the exam. So, analyze the key factors that may influence job satisfaction within the procurement department at an organization of your choice. So let's break this down. We've got an analyze command word. So you know that you need to drill into this. Key factors that influence job satisfaction. So we want at least 5. It's a 25-mark question. And it's very clearly said within the procurement department at an organization of your choice. So you must address this context. If you don't, you will miss out on any of the marks allocated to it because there will be marks allocated to that context. So you've got to pick an organization of your choice, whether it's your own, whether it's, I don't know, someone like McDonald's or a large global company, and talk about a procurement example for each and every point that we run through. So we always start a question, and you know this by now, by defining. So if we look at the question again, you can see it's analysing the key factors that may influence job satisfaction. So we need to define what job satisfaction is. And it's that feeling of fulfillment or enjoyment that a person derives from their job. Hopefully you have it, or you've had it in the past, and you can give maybe an example of what's made you feel fulfilled, whether that's accountability, responsibility, feedback, and so on. All of this makes a huge difference. So this is my suggested way to answer this question. I am a big fan of this model. Hackman and Oldham have created a 5-point model. It's essentially 3 points, but within those 3 points, there's 5 overall points. So I've separated them out like this to make it clearer for you in an exam. And the 5 areas that we're going to go through are skill variety, task identity, task significance, feedback, and autonomy. And so for each one, we're going to drill in, we're going to explain it, because remember, these are our statements. We're going to then explain what these things are, and you are going to give an example from the procurement department of an organization of your choice. If you do those things, you should be onto a distinction. So let's drill in. Skill variety then. The opportunity to exercise different skills and perform different operations, as opposed to micro-specialism and repetition, which causes monotony and boredom for most people, not everyone. So essentially, this is the idea that you can do lots of different tasks. So you're not just doing the same movement over and over again. One of my students has told me about her brother, who is a riveter, and he does the same motion over and over again, riveting these rivets. I don't really know what he does. Maybe it wasn't the best example, but riveting these things and basically gets RSI, repetitive strain injury, from doing that same motion all the time. The fact is, most people like a variety of different tasks to stop them getting bored and to entertain them and to motivate them, essentially. But remember, once you've explained what skill variety is, you're probably onto a point for skill variety and maybe a point or 2 on your explanation of it. Then you've got to link to an example of a procurement department for an organization of your choice. So use your own. For example, I'm sure that you don't do the same task every day. So when you go in, you may be doing different things. You may be, I don't know, contract managing, creating contracts, negotiating, dealing with suppliers, review meetings, whatever it may be. So use this and bring it to life in a couple of sentences. That's your first one. Let's move to the next one. Task identity, the integration of operations into a whole task as opposed to task fragmentation. So let me explain this a little bit more. So there is this tendency, if you're a control freak like myself, when you delegate, that you just want to delegate just a little bit because you're worried about the overall task, because the responsibility as a manager still lies on your shoulders. So what you do is you give people fragments of tasks. And so there's no real accountability. By giving someone a whole task from start to finish, it becomes their baby. They are accountable for that whole task. So it makes it really motivating for them. It's their kind of pass or fail approach. It's on their shoulders. So they're more likely to be motivated and step up. Once again, you've got to link that to an example of a procurement department. So do you run a project that you've seen from start through to end? Are you a category manager? Use these kind of examples to make it come to life. And remember, when we're talking about that example, I want to see at least 2 sentences to kind of fluff out that enough to get some marks. Next area, task significance. That the task has a role, purpose, meaning, and worth according to the values of an organization and an individual. So the fact is that you're not just be giving a task just to keep you busy. You can see the difference that this task can make or how it can add to the value for your organization. And this is something as a pragmatist I find really motivating. If I don't have it, it gets me very, very stressed. I remember in an organization that I was working on this spreadsheet where I would just input these numbers and then transfer it to the finance director. And I didn't know why I was doing it. I just got told to do it every day. And so I think after about 3 months, I sort of lost it and went into the finance director's office. And I was like, why am I sending you this? Can you explain it to me, please? And he was like, stop sending it me. I don't look at it. I don't know what it is. So most of the time, these things start to occur in big organizations, particularly where you're doing tasks for the sake of doing them. The whole purpose of motivating someone and giving them satisfaction is that they can see the difference. That's why I love teaching CIPS, because I can see my students through their exams and I see the difference in their career from the start of CIPS to the end. It makes it really worthwhile for me. Once again, you've got to link to an example of how what you're doing can make huge difference to the savings of an organization, sustainability of an organization, and so on and so on. Then we have feedback. How do we know how well we're doing if we don't get any feedback? Sometimes referred to as knowledge of outcomes. So the availability of information by which the individual can assess progress and performance in relation to expectations and targets. So you can basically use it as a yardstick and say, am I where I should be? And it's also an opportunity to basically get feedback, but also have a voice in performance improvement. Say what you think you might need, work with your manager and so on. So having some sort of, say in your professional development can be very, motivating and create job satisfaction as well. So feedback is a huge element of job satisfaction. And again, you've got to link to an example of your procurement department, and perhaps you get feedback from your managers in weekly meetings. Maybe it's, 6 monthly PPs, whatever it may be. So you know that you're working well and meeting your targets essentially. And the 5th and final area is autonomy, which essentially means independence. This is the opportunity to exercise discretion or self-management in what you do. And I'm assuming that for the majority of you listening to this, when you go into the office or when you start work, wherever you're working from now, you have, within reason, the ability to manage what you are doing on each day. That you don't have to do certain tasks in a certain order unless there is some sort of necessity for that. You can schedule and choose your work methods yourself without being told exactly how to do that. And this can be a very large part of job satisfaction, because micromanaging can make you go insane. Some people like micromanaging. So if you're that person, no judgment here whatsoever. It's sometimes quite nice to let go of all control and just let someone tell you exactly what to do. The problem is, if you like to have control and like to have a say in what you do, then this can create demotivation and a lack of job satisfaction. So independence and autonomy, the ability to use self-discretion, is a huge area. And once again, link back to your procurement department example and state about how you are able to work independently if you are, and so on. So those are the 5 areas of Hackman and Oldham's model. If you go through all 5, explaining them properly and then linking back to the context, again, a distinction should, be the reward you get for this. I hope you found this useful. Thanks so much for listening. Catch me back for another constructive response exam answer soon. Bye for now.